Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this month's Audio Production Town Hall. I'm Brian Smithers, the Program Director of Audio Production here at Full Sail, and we hope you'll join us month after month here with the Town Hall. We're here typically Monday of week 4 of whatever class you're in, and we talk about topics of general interest to audio nerds from the beginning of the program to the end of the program. We cover everything from mixing to drum miking to the business of dance music and new gear, and have different guests every month. So we hope you'll tune in and subscribe so you are notified when each month's broadcast is coming out. You can also find us at the YouTube channel and through the link on FS1 to see the recorded version of every broadcast. So this month, we're pleased to have a colleague and longtime friend of mine, Paul Harlyn, with us. Paul is course director of. I just gave you a raise. That's beautiful. Paul is course director of Project and Portfolio 3 in the audio production program. We're very lucky to have him in that role. If you've worked with him, you know whereof I speak. If you haven't, you've got a treat in store for you. And Paul's been with Full Sail for quite a while now, but for much longer than that, Paul has been an recording artist and engineer with a track record of successful releases going back quite a ways. And this summer, Paul released his latest album called Summer Chill. We want to talk about that and his process and a lot of the steps involved in getting a record from conception to production and release along the way. So, Paul, thanks for being here. We're glad you could join us.
Brian, thank you for that wonderful introduction.
So let's start right off with Summer Chill. And the first thing I want to know is, Summer Chill is released in 2024, but in 2023, you released an album called Summer.
Yes.
So what's the relationship between those two albums?
That's a great question. So Summer was conceived of the idea of music to listen to in the summer when you're active, when you're out doing things, whether you're at the beach or you're in the car driving somewhere or thinking, and my albums are typically travelogue albums. That's what I've been doing for the last 30 years, is I usually travel somewhere, I come back and I write pieces about it or themes of the feelings I've had, different places. So that's what Summer was, and it was released last year in November, and it had grooves, it had beats, and I enjoyed that. But then I started listening earlier this year. I started listening to a lot more music that wasn't quite as beat heavy, and a lot more music that there are various names for that, real chill out, but chill out has so many different connotations these days. So I started listening to music that had less drums, and I listened to the album, and I said, you know what, a lot of these songs will work without the drums. And I attempted a few of them, and I said, you know, they really work exactly as they are, just remove the drums. And there was 9 pieces on Summer, and then so I found like maybe 4 of them that didn't have to do anything, just literally remove the drums, the melodies and the keyboard stood up, just remix it slightly. And then there was another 3 or 4 I had to completely remake, and completely redo from the scratch. And then I removed 2 that didn't work without drums. It was one called Paris that was beat driven, very much like sound like, you know, you were being out night at Paris, and it was very beat driven, and that didn't work. So then I found 2 more pieces, and one of them I'm going to show you today that I came up with. We got back from Sedona, Arizona a few months ago, and I wrote a new piece for this album specifically. So the answer to your question simply is remove the drums, see what melodies stand up, and see what still works. And so I'm in a genre now that's more under almost focus-like or dinner music, but it still sounds like European chill. It's not so much like, you know, so relaxing that it's going to put you to sleep like spa. Still has some things going on, but it's perfect for when you're eating dinner, when you're on the airplane, when you're just or late at night, when you're not watching TV and you put something on, you want something nice to set a nice ambience, but it's not going to put you to sleep.
That's cool. Thanks for sharing that. So without your music, I would never know what it's like to be in Paris at night. So thank you for that. But you bring up an interesting point there, the balance between starting your process with melody or starting your process with beat.
Yeah.
Do you have a preference? Is it dependent on, you know, the ideas that you're going for?
Sure.
What do you think about that?
So I've been teaching students here for many years, and I've seen them help them create their songs. And I notice most people these days create their music, they put on a beat they like, and then they find something that kind of works on top. And I encourage them and to do it, to look at it backwards. Okay, let's start with either melody first or vocal first or a hook first. Before you even put on a beat, before you even put it literally, what is your concept? Who are you trying to reach, right? What is your goal? Who are you trying to reach? So for me, it starts at the piano. Like I play guitar, I play bass, I play a lot of, you know, percussion things, drum things, but it starts at the piano. So for me, I don't have anything, if it doesn't stand up at the piano, it's not worthy of releasing. If I can't sit down and play it on the piano as a piece of music, I put it aside and find something else. So that's my personal opinion. It has to stand up at the piano first. And if you look back at the great American songwriters from, you know, Cole Porter, Gershwin, or Elton John, or Billy Joel, all their songs are written that way. They're not written they don't put on a beat and then try to find a groove around it. No, they have either a melody in mind or a lyric in mind, and then they sit at the piano, or with the great guitar players, they do the same thing, whatever comes out. Yeah. So I think that answered your question?
It does, and I think it's interesting that a lot of the music that we know has been produced from the beat up. Still, it's not typically the beat that people go around humming to themselves, and in rare cases it is.
That is a great point. Yeah, you can't even copyright a beat. You can copyright a recording of a beat, but you can't copy. You know, somebody could take that beat whatever the beat consists of these days. It's more than just drums, and they could literally recreate it. And as long as it doesn't have too much of the melody, and if it has all the same beat ingredient, it's completely free. So, and like you said, you're not walking around humming a beat very often. It's doesn't stay with it. So I'm going to go one more tangent off for one moment, is that I remember when I got signed to my first record deal back in 1992, and then released my first album on a label in 93, I said to the owner of the label, I said, I'm not writing this music for right now. He was releasing a lot of dance music, so he took a shot on me. I was a little bit different outside what he was normally releasing. And I said, I don't want this music to be right now. I want this music to stand up the test of time. And in fact, the song that he signed me under, called Cairo, is still being played throughout the world. I'm still being paid the most of a song I wrote 30 years ago, because it has a little melodic hook, and it has a beat that everybody likes. Oh, here we go, beat, but I've done it in many versions of that song without the beat, and you know, piano versions, and it had enough going on there, enough melodies and enough interesting things that I've been able to do so many remixes. But there again, my statement to him was, this is not for necessarily for today. I see this living on, and here we are 30 years later, and it's still making me income.
That's great. That's cool. Yeah, it's tempting to chase the flavor of the month, but to do something that actually has some staying power that people will actually listen to in coming years that's a real challenge of good songwriting.
I hate to pat myself on the back, but I think I was a little bit ahead of the curve, because even though it was released in 93, it didn't get picked up to Buddha Bar until 99 or like late 98. So I was a little bit, they didn't even use the word chill back then. So it was like, then the Buddha Bar was like one of the biggest selling chill compilations. They've done like maybe 15 different series right now, but I was on volume 2. And so that was, that means that I had to wait for the idea of chill to catch up with what I was creating back in the early 90s. But
so you've brought an example for us, but before we get to that, I want to follow up on something that you said. You've mentioned the word chill a couple times, and you tried to define chill a little bit, which is always going to be a slippery thing. But one of the things that intrigues me in conversations we've had about your music previously is that while it always comes from the heart and reflects your musical conception, you actually have a target audience in mind. Dare we say the dirty word, target market, because this is not a hobby. We have lots of expensive toys that our habit requires of us. So actually making some money at doing this is no small part of what keeps us going forward. So can you explain to us a little bit about how you conceive of your target market and what you do to understand that market and then aim your work to fit that niche properly?
Sure. That is an excellent question, and we could talk for hours about that.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can condense it down to a few sentences. So before you even sit down and conceive of, I tell this to my students too, before they even sit down and say, I want to create this, who are you making it for, right? That's what we're talking about, target market. So it's not like, it's not like I say you should gather a bunch of people together and you're going to be the lyricist and you're going to be the melody guy and you're going to be the beat guy and then you're going to create it for this particular pop singer. That's marketing the best way possible. And that's the music that we're hearing these days. We're hearing, created by a team, by some of the best, people that do their groove and do the melody and do the lyrics the best you could ever be. And that's why we're hearing this current brand of pop music that for the last, many years. So I know my market was not that. I'm not going to be creating for the latest pop singer. I've done that in the past, and that's not my flavor. It doesn't come from me. So for me, I want to create something that I think the key is something that I would want to listen to.
Right.
I think that's the secret. I encourage everybody to figure out, don't just create a piece of music because you heard a pop song or a rap song or a jazz song that sounded like that. No, I want to create something like that. No, what do you love? What is your heart music, right? What is it that touches you that you feel like, okay, I can contribute to this because I feel it. So I can contribute that idea And then, because if you're really feeling it, guess what? That's going to come across on the recording, and of course the performance. But even so on the recording, you don't think about it. You think like, oh, I'm pasting together this loop, and I'm throwing together this little sound here, and then would you buy that? Would you actually sit down and listen to that? And besides, if you get your ego out of the way and say, well, I created it, of course I'm going to listen to it because it's great because I created it. Or I created it and it really sucks and I'm never going to listen to it. Whatever it is, get all that out of the way and just say, in my heart, if this was brought to me, would I listen to this? Or would I buy this? Or would I go see this performer? And if you can answer that question, that'll at least narrow it down to, what you want to create and what market. So I don't have a direct answer for you whether you should market to a particular genre, because sometimes you want to. I mean, to a particular, hey, I want to write a song for the latest pop singer, or I want to write just something that's so avant-garde that I don't care who listens to it, because I love doing that too. So there's no one answer to that. You do what's in your heart. And if it's in your heart to write pop music, then, and for the latest pop singer or for yourself, then do that. There's no one answer. Yeah.
Well, I think we often romanticize composers and musicians as creating art for art's sake, and that there are no other considerations. But no matter what century you're talking about, you can go back to Bach, and Bach had specific employers with specific needs, and he had to write this many things for each Sunday's service. And Beethoven did what he wanted, but he also did what he needed in order to satisfy certain patrons. And the same is true of Picasso, who definitely went his own way, but still, if he hadn't been actually successful at selling his paintings, he wouldn't have kept doing exactly what he was doing.
You somehow have to meld art and commerce together.
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with creating arts for art's sake also. I mean,
right.
there's plenty, and believe it or not, now that there's 20,000 songs a day released to, or maybe it's a week, I don't know, whatever it is, a lot released to the streaming services, then everybody can have their own little niche and their own little flavor, as long as you have people that as long as you love it first, and then you can at least share it with people that you think, well, if I love it, maybe people that like similar things that I like might like it. But you have to love it first.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, let's dig into this song that you brought to share with us.
So this is a new one. This was not on Summer, so I came back and I knew that I wanted to add a few more pieces to make Summer Chill continue to be that background, good feeling music. So I came back from Sedona, Arizona, and there's this magical place we go to called Boynton Canyon. We stay in a retreat there, and we hike into this canyon. It's miles long, and I'll actually show you some video. You can actually see it if they switch over here. You actually see pictures of the canyon. And so I came back, and I sat at the piano looking at pictures. This is usually the way I work. I look at pictures that I've taken on the trip, and I've been to this place many times in the last 25 plus years. But every time I see different angles of this canyon, different unique feelings. So I wanted to create a piece of music that encapsulated my feeling of walking in that canyon, hiking in that canyon. And I came up with a piano piece. And so for me, it was inspired by this. I have so many big piano libraries that are humongous and the really expensive ones. But I got this piano sound that I'm about to play you, ironically, from a little thing called Piano Book. I think it's on pianobook.com. It's from, I don't remember the name of the company, but you can just go Piano Book and Google that, and you'll come up. And they give away these free pianos. So this is an upright piano that I found, and it was free. You're supposed to submit your piano, and then you download free pianos. And they have paid versions too. But anyways, I found this piano sound. It's like an old upright sound. It's a little bit out of tune. It's a little bit, but it has a very unique character as compared to most piano libraries, which are pristine and Steinway and Yamaha. This is not that. This is the opposite. So I was inspired by this sound, and that's what the reason I'm telling that story is sometimes you get inspired by a sound. And so if it's a beat and then you get inspired, that's fine. Or you play a particular sound and you say, you know what, this is really working for me. So I'm going to play this, and it's a really short, it's like a 16-bar melody that repeats a few times. So I'm just going to play the first time through, and then I'm going to demonstrate it on the keyboard over here, what it was like to write it. So you'll see the sheet music here. If you get to the screen, you'll see the sheet music, and this is literally what you see is me composing it and writing it at the same time. I thought of it in a half an hour, and then I literally opened up Logic, hit record, and performed it. And what you're hearing for the basic piano part is it. There's no editing. It's literally what I played. And that's the way I like to compose, is once I have the idea, then I like to, write it out or just think of remember the chords and remember the melody, and then just literally create it as the template, and then I overdubbed on top. You'll hear additions. So I'll play here, and it's going to keep adding parts as it goes on. I'll see how long we go before I stop. So Boynton Kenyon, and you'll see the images come up on the screen. You can see the piano left hand, the bass enters. So it repeats another time, and then it does an ending. So that's the idea. And then once I had, like I said, the bass down, the piano part down, then you say, okay, what else does this need? And the important thing is keep it simple, of course. That's the adage, right? We know to keep it simple. What else does it really need to tell the story? And then so just having the little dobro, slide dobro, just gave me that, a lot of reverb on it, gave me that big, open, spacious feeling. And then adding the bass just gave it that root feeling, gives you that you're feeling like, it just feels like home. And then, I don't remember what else is in there. A little organ to give it a nice pad, just give it that warm feeling. So warmth, I think, is the key thing. Right. So this one came about pretty easy. Sometimes I go overboard and then pull back. And so I encourage my students at the same time, be ruthless with what you put down. Yeah. Just because you recorded it doesn't mean it has to stay. Just, and if you look at like Steely Dan, many students probably don't follow Steely Dan, but they would work literally months on a song and then throw it away and start again with a new rhythm section. So that's a little extreme, but that's the extreme they went to in the 70s and 80s. So you don't have to be that extreme, but I do that too. I literally will create 3 versions of a song, completely different tempos, completely different instruments, and then say which one works for me. And the other key is always listen to it outside your studio, in amongst other people, or when you're in a really good space, and say, okay, does this reach me as a piece of music? And if it doesn't, throw it away and start again. Right. And so, should I keep going here?
Let me just ask you one quick question. Were you tempted to add any additional things to this relatively simple arrangement that you ended up having to talk yourself out of?
Yeah, no, this one, many songs I have went there to there to there to there to there. This one is the reason I like telling the story of this one, because it literally, everything I did worked, and I didn't go in another direction. I knew what I wanted from the root, and I knew the feeling of the warmth and the feeling of the big sky and the feeling of the openness was that. So I had this vision and heard the vision. So no, I didn't go in too many tangents. This is a rare one. That's a rare thing. Yet most time I go, and most everybody will go in tangents.
It probably helped that the initial choices that you made had such warmth and depth to them to begin with.
Yeah. Like I said, that piano sound is what was the inspiration. Because normally I play a piano, digital piano, or I play my acoustic piano, and it gives me one feeling. When you're playing something that has that out-of-tuney, is that a word, out-of-tuney? Upright piano sound, it just lent me at a whole different place. And I think that's a really nice place to go, is something that inspires, you know.
Very cool.
Okay. So I brought this keyboard here. It's called an Osmos, and I'm not going to use a piano sound because I didn't want to bring a piano sound with me, but I do enjoy this. So I'm going to talk about the way this song was written as the original inception of it. So essentially, you have a left hand making a statement, and then you have a right hand answering it, right? So it's like a question and answer. So, and then there's also on the right hand will, as it answers it, it kind of asks the question back to the left hand, and then he goes back home again. So I'll demonstrate that so you can see it really clear. So the left hand, you'll see it even on the sheet music up here. Well, you're not seeing this, but you're seeing me now. But so I play the left hand. It's just, so that asks the question. What are we doing? How are we feeling this? And then before I even get to the melody, and it just goes, and you're back home, right? So it asked the question and it went back home.
Yep.
That was it. So there was a question and answer. Now does it one more time, and it does the melody. It says, and that question landed on the fifth.
Yeah.
So it's saying, wow, da-da-da-da-da-da, you're hanging there, right? The fifth is like someplace, it's like if you look at a dominant seventh chord that's hanging there, it wants to go back home. It's dying to go back home. So then I go, okay, go back home. You go back home again. The left hand asks the question. Now we go to like a change. We've done that twice, and my rule is something new every two. So we've done that twice. Now we got to go, oh, let's go to the 4 chord. Now we go to the 5 chord. And now we go to the 6 chord. Now we go back to the 5. And where do we want to go from the dominant 7th chord? Back home.
Back home.
And so on and so on. Back, that was my 16 bars, and you just do that. And then at the ending, it just does an ending. And then back home. So it's always a call and response. It's always going somewhere, coming back, and that was the feeling, and that was the idea.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you for laying that out that way, so we can understand the musical logic behind how you did what you did. I would be remiss if I didn't point out that anyone who paid attention in Abe's Principles of Music class should have understood every single word that you just said, because it's all there, 1, 4, 5, 6 progressions, and tonic and dominant and all that kind of stuff. So we won't ask you to transcribe it, but
well, you got the sheet music right in front of you.
Okay, yeah, don't need.
If you need the sheet music, send me a message. I'll send you the sheet music.
That's beautiful. So I want to encourage those of you who are listening in on this conversation to pop into the chat with any questions that you have. We're happy to answer them as we go. And I think we actually have a comment right now.
All right, so J.A. reached out and said, Paul is a beast on them keys.
Indeed he is. And in fact, I was very tempted to say, when you said that you like to figure out what you're going to do and then just lay it down as much as possible in one take, is made possible because you're such a fine musician.
Well, thank you. I started playing piano at 9 years old.
Yeah.
And so I'm a little older than 9 right now, and so that is second nature. Playing jazz and just playing around, that's second nature. But conceiving of the idea, you want to get that. That's why I say you want to make that second nature. You want to get the idea of like, oh, what am I doing this now? Am I doing this now? You don't want to get that thinking out of the way.
I'm gonna challenge that for just a second. It's second nature for you, but our students, being professional audio engineers, are going to run into a lot of musicians who've been playing since they're 9, for whom getting it on the first take is actually not second nature.
Sure, sure.
And even among musicians who are at the top of their craft, we still get moments like when Burt Bacharach asked
Al David?
Alfie, who was the singer who sang Alfie?
Yeah, yes.
Shoot.
Yeah.
A very famous singer. Anyways, he had her do like 32 takes
Wow.
of Alfie, which is actually a fairly simple song to begin with, but it wasn't until the 32nd take, which
Wow.
is a little bit abusive, by the way.
Wow, yeah. That's
Don't
severe.
do that with all of your
No,
artists.
no, that's
but
severe.
before he got it exactly the way that he wanted it. So it takes judgment and understanding when the first take really is what they turn out to be for you so often.
Let me just throw a little tangent in here. When they were mixing Billie Jean, Bruce Swedien, they did the third mix, and they printed they printed a half-inch 2-track tape, and then Quincy Jones left, and Michael and Bruce Swedien kept remixing Billie Jean, and they made a stack of half-inch tapes this big. I think it was 63 mixes, and they couldn't decide which one to keep. And Quincy Jones comes back 5 hours later. He goes, "You're still doing that?" They go, and he played it for him. He goes, "You lost it." And he goes, "Play me back the one that was here right before I left." And they played him back take 3, and that's the one we've been hearing to this day.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not sure if that.
I laugh because I was fortunate enough to sit in Bruce's studio with him for a day,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he told me exactly that
What a
story.
great story. Yeah, he's famous for that story.
But you can get lost in the process.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's why it takes a producer to see the big picture.
Exactly.
So it helps to get feedback from outside sources. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your arranging and recording process, because I think knowing when to say when and knowing where to start. So for example, with arranging, I assume you typically start with the vocals or lead instrument in most of your
100%.
sessions,
Yeah. Without that, I use the image for my students that if you're painting a picture, and you know that the background is going to be the sky and the landscape and maybe a beach or whatever it is, and then you come up with a foreground thing and it doesn't match your foreground thing you had in mind. Oh, I knew I wanted this person or this tree in the front here, and it doesn't match the background. So now you painted yourself into a corner.
Yeah,
so
literally.
The same thing musically, you want to start with the feature instrument, right? What's in the front of you, paint that first. And even you'll see painters, if they're doing a face, they start with the eyes first because everything is in the eyes. And then they do the face, and then they can do the background. So doing it backwards, I'm going to come up with this drum beat, and then I'm going to put this bass down, and I'm going to put this keyboard down, and then you go, oh, now can you rap on top of it? Wait a minute, you're not rapping right. No, he's rapping right. Your music is not right. So you got to throw away the music and now create the music around the rap. So to avoid that, do the music first. Do the lead vocal or the lead instrument first.
A related point is that arrangement is the other side of the coin of mixing, because if you're going to mix something and you've got a vocal, you've got to be sure that there's space in that mix for the vocal, the rap, the lead saxophone. It's got to be a lead saxophone.
Of course.
Don't forget the lead saxophone. But there's got to be acoustic room in that mix for that instrument to actually cut through. And so much of what we do by carving out EQ and moving things out of the center of the space.
Let me stop you right there and saying, what you do in the mix, you're now putting a Band-Aid on, okay? So carving out EQ or panning, you've just put a Band-Aid on. You haven't really fixed the problem. The problem is you want to get the lead source there, and then everything you do needs to be enveloping that in what it needs as compared to So if you think you have to now, oh, the song doesn't work because the mix is not right. No, the song doesn't work because the song wasn't recorded right or arranged right.
Right.
Nothing to do with it. You can fix it with the mix, but only so far. And to take that point another step is panning. You said panning. That doesn't fix anything. Most people are listening on all-in-one speaker systems these days, or on your phone you can't hear the panning.
Yep.
And you'll hear it in your earbuds, but no, you have to, don't think I fixed it because I panned this over here and now I fixed all my arrangement problems. No, you just put a Band-Aid on it. It doesn't fix it. I'm sorry to cut you off, but that
No, it's good.
That was,
you finished my sentence.
Yeah.
So I think we have a question or two.
We have a question from Tyler asking, who or what is your biggest inspiration?
Oh, I can't say that. That's Brian Smithers is my biggest inspiration right there.
Back at you, Paul.
No, in the 70s, I love Brian Eno. I don't know if anybody follows Brian Eno, but he's the thinking man's, I don't even want to call him a musician, because he won't even call himself a musician, but he's a thinking man's producer, and he's done everything from his ambient music to U2 and to, thousands of other records. So that was my original, like that. For the music I create, unfortunately, maybe to my detriment, I don't try to copy anybody. I literally just, this is what feels right to me. So I don't have an inspiration for that somebody creates, there's so many, I listen to so much music, but there's not one thing where I say, oh, I love that. But Brian Eno has always had a soft spot in my heart. Whatever he does, it seems to feel right to me. It's always enveloped in a warmth and thing like that. So I'll leave it at that.
Awesome. That's great. Great. I think we have another question.
Dusty is asking, in your experience, what is the hardest instrument to produce?
Didgeridoo.
Yeah. That you can make it work, a didgeridoo. I would say banjo, because without the right things around it, banjo can really stick out and really be hard. But you'll notice in certain genres, Americana and country and banjo can work perfectly because it fits. It has the right other acoustic elements. But I've noticed, and you can't do a digital banjo. And samples of a banjo most of them sound like a harpsichord, and they just don't work. So I would say that would be one of the hardest instruments to try. Most other things, you could try world music instruments, and they seem to work pretty well. Like I have a tabla here, or you can make that work anywhere. I have a Kyoto here that you can make. I was just thinking about a world music instrument. That's a nice, if you have a Kyoto in front of you as a Japanese instrument, that would be a challenge, but to make that warm and fit in the track. But it's such a beautiful instrument that I think it really could.
It's funny you bring up banjo first. That's one of the things I think that makes someone like Bela Fleck such a rarity and such a great pleasure. Absolutely. Because he's been able to place banjo into so many different varieties of contexts.
Classical music even. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and doing them all impeccably.
Yeah, but it comes down to his fingers. Most banjo players are going to be playing very bright and very fast, so he would play it. His fingers is kind of like Mark Knopfler playing with his fingers. It's just it comes out from his soul to his fingers and then to the instrument. So that's the rarity. But most banjo players are not going to be playing that style like that. Yeah. So.
Cool. I think we have another question.
J.A. is asking, are you working on another project? And if so, what is the concept or idea?
I love that question because I have my heart project that I've been thinking about for the last 6 months, and I'm really loving it. So I mentioned Brian Eno. So I love ambient music, but I've never released an ambient album. I've done piano album, I've done esoteric electronic albums, all kinds of different things, but I've never done a true ambient record. And so I have this piano called a CP70, which is I bought it in 1981. It's a touring piano. I bought it to go on tour with, and it's a real piano, but it doesn't have a soundboard, so it breaks into 2 pieces to tour. Anyways, it has a pickup underneath each string. There's 73 keys on it, and there's a pickup underneath the 73 note. And so I take the output of that directly off the pickups, bypassing the preamp that they give you. I come directly off the pickups, going into 3 different guitar pedals.
Ooh.
So I'm treating it like a guitar. The first one is a pitch bend / octave thing, which you can just take a piano note and hit the thing, and you can bend it down and bend it back up, and it's opened up. I play guitar, so it opens up a guitaristic thing with my piano skills, and then it goes into what's called a Mogerfoger, which is like a ring modulator, but it does really beautiful modulation, and that's right there. So as I'm playing it, I control it, and then it goes into a preamp, or my own little like bass line driver, which I can do drive and EQ with it and do all kinds of things. And then after all that, I send it into an effects processor that's in a Sonic DP4 from the 80s that just delays that don't sound like anything. And I can control the delays with a pedal for how many repeats that I have, and it'll almost do endless to a 1 repeat. And so I'm playing the piano and the Mogerfoger and the repeats and creating a performance out of this instrument, which I've loved for 40 years. And it's the most organic thing I've ever done. And so I'm 4 pieces into it. I've done 6, but I'm throwing 2 away. So I'm 4 pieces into it that I'm really liking. And when I've got 10 and it's a 40-minute piece, I'll release it as a CP70 record. And it's real. And again, it's something that I don't care if anybody else wants to listen to it. Every time I put these 4 pieces on, I go, I really like this.
That's
and it's
cool.
just because it's controlling it with all these pedals and all these delays, and really cool thing. And you could just do minimal stuff, and it comes out like a mountain. You know, CP70 was the one that U2 used on their first record, da 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 da, that big melody that Bono plays when they still carry it around with them live.
Yeah.
So, anyways, it's a big sound.
It's a cool instrument. I remember when that was first released.
It's a big sound, and when you have those pickups, literally 1 inch away from the strings, it creates this so immediate and big. Just touching it, and it's big.
That's nice. You realize now that you've put this out there in the world, you've got to finish it.
I'm dying to finish it. I just need the time to do it. So yeah, that's my heart project. And like I said, it goes back to my roots of loving Brian Eno from the 70s, his ambient series. Yeah.
Cool. Great questions. We appreciate
Yes,
those.
thank you.
If you have any more, we still have a few minutes, but we got through about a third of our list, Paul. So, we could talk about mastering, or about strategizing your release, or any combination of those things that you'd like to share.
Okay. Well, let me just quickly do the strategizing the release. So strategizing means figuring out the market and how to reach that people. How do you reach those people? And you know, it used to be playlists. You go to try to find the playlist creators. It's my biggest challenge. It's my biggest challenge. It's everybody's biggest challenge.
Yeah.
These days, there's so much content.
Yeah.
How do you rise above the noise? It's almost impossible. So the only thing you can do is do the best work you can, put it out there, and hopefully it will, viral is the word these days. Hopefully it'll go word of mouth and people will say it. Everybody that listens to this Summer Chill record goes, hey, I like it a lot. It really fits in a lot of different things when I want to relax or when I want to feel this way. So there's 2 different ways to market: push or pull. Pull meaning let other people do it, or push means, hey, you got to check out my new record. Hey, this is the best thing since sliced bread. And that's pushing it. And everybody you meet, that becomes tiresome. Nobody wants to hear me pushing my own record. So it sounds counterintuitive, but you got to let other people push it. You got to let other people sell it, because it doesn't feel right. I know you have to be a good salesman and everything, but my salesman technique is anti-sell. Is let the record sell itself. So if it doesn't move millions, that's okay. It'll reach who it's supposed to reach. And the second question on mastering is an excellent question, because we have a really big choice these days. Do we take what we've created, whether it's a song or many songs together created as an EP or an album, and hand it to somebody else to master? Do we just put it through the plugins we like and say it's mastered, or do we allow AI mastering to take care of it for us? There's no one answer to that. It's
Right.
whatever your budget will afford. If I felt like I would want to hire a separate mastering engineer, I would. But for me, for a record, it would be money that I feel like I could utilize other places. And so, believe it or not, with me, I trust a combination between Ozone 11, which I didn't use for this record. Once I have the idea what Ozone did to it, then I load up all my UA plugins and say, okay, put a little warmth here, subtract a little, a little bit of this here, take a little bit of the low mids out here. The big secret on mastering is, you'll notice Ozone, when AI Ozone does it, it removes a little bit of 350, 300 to 400 hertz. There's a low mid buildup that happens in every song. And the secret of mastering engineer, one of the big secrets is just remove 1, 2, 3 dBs of that, and you've got a clearer record.
Right.
And so AI will do that for you if you can, if you don't want to trust your speakers or your room or your ears. But like I said, I use a combination of everything, and I play it back for people who I trust, and they say, okay, this could be warmer, or this could be more like this. So I take what I learned from Ozone, and take what I learned from people that I trust, and then put it together, and then just play it back in as many speakers as possible. And so I break the rule. I master my own music, which is not what you shouldn't be doing. So, but I do it with a lot of help from. Yeah.
So speaking of help, you've been doing this long enough that you have heard styles of mixing and mastering and production in general evolve over time. So I imagine one of the things that you must do is to do some research about what the market is sounding like these days, so that your decisions are compatible with the expectations of the people you're trying to reach.
Sure. Wow, I could answer that so many different ways. I'll try to keep it simple because I know we don't have a lot of time. Is that I noticed that people create music or create sound, not even music, create sounds based on the first thing they put down. So if they put down a really dark instrument, and then everything else they put down is going to end up being a really dark mix, because that's the first, and everything they tried that's bright doesn't work, so they just use dark. And then reverse is true. If they start with a really bright sound, whether it's a really bright drum beat or a really bright some sound, and then everything is bright. So different styles, and so you want to, then if you're that different, hopefully your record is not that different. Hopefully if you're releasing more than one song at a time, they're at least all feel into the same mode, or you really need to hire a third person to do that. Like I said, I could answer this so many different ways. That most pop music is super bright. That's just the nature of it, right? Most jazz music is super muted, right? Most, not all. Classical music is also muted. Folk music is a little bit above there, so you know your genre and you say, where do I fit in this? I like to use the word warm because I like to listen to warm music.
Yeah.
To me, if I can't listen to pop music very long or aggressive music. That's just because I've gone to this point where my ears don't feel very good listening to aggressive music, and that's just because that's me. Many people love aggressive music, and you create music for them. That's it. You figure out who your audience is, what they want to hear, and you create that. And I'll leave it at that.
Cool, that's great. Well, we have a question which may end up being our last question of the day, but let's give it a shot.
All right, J.A. is asking, what is your opinion on producers now using AI?
Okay, we have another hour, right?
Or two.
Yeah. Okay, so let me answer it really simply, because I could pronounce on this for a long time. You could use it as an inspiration. You could literally, I talked about AI and mastering. That's literally helping me make decisions that maybe I didn't hear. Now, AI created music, like literally going to the two main services that you can say, give me a song that sounds like this and this and this genre and this person, lyrics like this, and there will be a song. And so right now, people are, I think, especially younger people, are going against that. They can detect it. They have an AI detection in them that's really blatant. And I think I hopefully have some of that too. You can really tell right now. I mean, will 5 years from now or a year from now, maybe it'll be different. Right now, you can tell because the melodies are kind of repetitive. It's even more repetitive than what you hear in pop music. It's like a human wouldn't normally do that, and it just feels wrong. It just feels wrong. It's like we've reached almost the uncanny valley on some things, if you know that term from film. So if it doesn't feel right, then people are not going to share it. So you can just go to AI and say, create this song for me, and you can put it up, and then it'll wither away like all the other songs that don't reach people in this world. But I don't know what the future lands when eventually AI is going to learn so much about music that it can be more humanistic, and it can be another Beethoven. It could be another, I don't even know who to name, but just whether we're going to get to that point, I assume we will. And then now we've got to the point where it's come to people want to see something live. People want to relate to something, whether it's a YouTube, and that's why the unplugged concerts have been really big, the Tiny Desk concerts, because they can actually see it and they can feel the humanness of it. And people still love to go see performance, right? The festivals sell out, and people want to go feel the emotion coming off the stage, which they don't get when they're listening back to some music. So I think that'll be there, and I think, so if you're questioning whether you want to be in music because there's so much AI and it's so easy to create a song just by telling AI to do it, just hold in mind that if you have something to offer and you can do it live in front of people, and then people can relate to the emotion that you're giving off, then I will hold tight right now as we're sitting here in 2024 that the emotion will win out. But I don't know where we stand in years from now.
I predict that within 12 to 18 months, we're going to see a band of humans touring internationally, performing music that was originally composed and recorded by AI, just because someone's going to think that that's a bankable project.
Like I say, people's AI detection circuit is pretty harsh right now, and I think people are going like this against it. That's my opinion. I think they want to see more human emotions and want to see it live. That's why YouTube is so massively big, because they hey, this song I'm listening to, it could have been created by AI really easily. Well, let's see you do it in front of me. Right? And so whether you have a robot band doing it in front of you, not even real people, but who knows what that audience is going to be like. I don't know. I can't predict the future. All I know is if it feels good, it is good.
So if we can do a real quick answer, we've got one more question to squeeze in before we call it a day.
How would you go about selling your produced beats or instrumentals?
I thought I kind of answered that. The question was, how do I go around selling my instrumental? You mean sell it for people to put lyrics on top? Is that the question?
That's my assumption, yes.
Was that yes?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. So how do you, well, there's many different websites that you can just put your beats up on top of, and people will pay $5 for them and put a lyric on, and put a rap on top. I don't know that answer. It's not the market I'm in, but literally just Google where to sell my beats, and you'll get beats.com and every other service. There's probably 100 services right now that you could place your beats on that people could rap on top of. And that's become such a flooded market. And now with AI, you can literally just tell AI to create a beat that sounds like Dre meets Kendrick, and there it is. And then you put it up on there, and people will pay you $2, $5 for it. That's a whole different market than human market.
But your albums are sold through the major streaming platforms.
Oh yeah. So if you want to go that way, you pick a distributor. And I've been using CD Baby since 1998. After my first label deal, I gave him my second record, and he said, blah, 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 I don't know how to market it. Okay, I'll put it on myself. So I've been releasing. I was one of the first artists on CD Baby back before streaming was even possible in 1998. And streaming was in 2013 in America. So, but what was the question again? How do you market it?
How do you sell it?
How do you
actually,
sell
is the
you just
question
pick a
more
distributor.
specifically.
Like I said, I picked CD Baby. You could pick what's the other biggest one? I think I have it on the list
DistroKid?
there. DistroKid. It's
Yeah.
big one, everybody loves it. Now, the really big question is, how many releases, either singles or albums, are you doing a year? With CD Baby, I think their price is literally down to like $5 for a release, and they give you even the IRC code with it. I'm sorry, UPC code, UPC, IRC, UPC code with it. That's literally $5. That's nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can release as many as you want. Now with that, and it stays up there forever.
Yep.
So any song I've released 30 years ago is still there, or 1998, 25 years ago. If you release under, what was the word again? DistroKid, every year you have to pay them. If you don't pay them that year, then that means they take their music down, or you pay them extra to be called Leave a Legacy. So if you're creating music for today and you don't care about 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, then DistroKid works fine. Or if you think, wait a minute, DistroKid's still charging me, now it's 10 years later, I don't care about it, and then the music's gonna go away. So, or unless you pay them more to Leave a Legacy. So make a choice based on distributor. And there's a website, if you're interested, send me a message, and there's a guy you can go to that goes to 30 different distribution services, and he rates them all. And
Awesome.
It's an incredible website to go to, and you can pick one. And then once you do that, just say go, and it's there every streaming service, unless you opt out of ones you don't want to go to.
Fabulous. Thanks, Paul.
Yay.
Thank you all for your questions. Paul, it's been great talking with you. We really appreciate you sharing your music with us and your process. It's been a great
Thank you,
time.
Brian. That was excellent questions. It's like they came right out of my brain.
It just as though.
No, thank you. I love your, the way you handled this is perfect.
Fabulous.
Thank you.
So thank you all for joining us. The Audio Production Town Hall happens the Monday of week 4 of every month. So do tune in again and see what we're up to from month to month. We'd like to thank Course Director John Cost and the AVT class for awesome production support today. We really appreciate all the time and energy that you put into it. It's been great working with all of you. And that's a wrap. Tune in next month, and we'll look forward to seeing you then.